8th poem. A very loving, a very touching poem. So beautiful, just like you see the title, Father and Son by Elizabeth Jennings. When we talk about a relationship, when we talk about father and son, what comes to you? The bond, the understanding, the love. Yes, of course, when you're talking of a relationship, this is what comes, the understanding, the compatibility. We talk of friends, that's a different bonding. We talk of our lovers, that's a different bonding. We talk of our colleagues, a different bonding. But when it comes to a parent and the child, it's totally an incomparable relationship. And you shall see in this poem what a beautiful and a touching poem it is. So let's go ahead and see what we get out of this poem. Please pay total attention. Elizabeth Jennings was an English poet. She was born in Boston, Lincolnshire. Regarded as traditionalist rather than an innovator, Jennings is known for her lyric poetry and mastery of form. So she's based on the traditional grounds. She has that background, so she writes those. She has been awarded the W.H. Smith Literary Award in 1987 and the CBE, the Commander of the Order of the British Empire, in 1992. Okay, here we go. As always, I shall be reading the poem. I leave you to ponder upon, to understand, to analyze, and I wish I could hear you explaining it back to me. But yes, for the time being, take it from me. So here we go. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. Yet have I killed the seed I spent or sown it, where the land is his and none of mine? We speak like strangers. There's no sign of understanding in the air. This child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks. I cannot understand myself why anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. I hope you have understood what the poet is trying to say. Very touching, very beautiful, and really, really sensitive. So let's go ahead and check the theme. The central idea of the poem is the generation gap, which occurs when the communication link between two generations breaks due to a mutual lack of understanding, tolerance, and acceptance. When do you think the relationships start diluting? When do you think that bond starts breaking? When do you think that grip is becoming loose? You know when? When you have a gap of communication. You should always learn to communicate. If you feel something wrong has happened, please solve it on the same day before you go to bed, be it any relationship. Solve it, sort it out, and then sleep. Be it to lovers, be it husband and wife, be it parent and child, be it anybody. This is for everyone. Sort out your problems and then go to bed. This is actually the principle. This is actually the right philosophy to be applied. So here, what are they trying to tell you? Why is there such a gap? Why does the gap become more and more? Because there is lack of understanding. There is lack of tolerance. You cannot tolerate. And the problem is we do not accept. Now this goes from both the sides. The son feels the father should accept everything what I do and say. The father feels the son should accept and do exactly what I am telling him. We have to have a win-win situation where both are happy. Both should mutually come to a midpoint and decide what should happen and what not. But how does that happen? It happens only with communication. When you talk it out, it's very, very, very important to talk it out. If you have grudges inside, you have to bring them out, because if you don't, they will keep multiplying, and then whatever you see, you will find it negative. You will never have a positive view. Yes? So let's move on. The poem reveals an internal conflict that a father undergoes when his son grows up and possesses his own interests, ideas, and perceptions. Now what he's having, the father, now the father feels like when he was small, like the way I told him, okay, go get me my newspaper, please get me a glass of water, don't talk, keep quiet, go to sleep. So he feels like what I say, what I have been doing and my son has been obeying, even now when he has grown up, it should be the same. He should be the same, just the way obey me. That's what he feels. But the problem is he undergoes this when his son grows up. Now, the child has his own interests, his own ideas and his own thought process, his own perceptions. How is it possible for that to match, with the father? It cannot, because now he's grown up, he has friends, he's stepped out into another world, he's got an exposure. So definitely it's not going to be on the same link. It's not going to connect. So supposing he is here and the father is here, or be it here, they both have to come to a midpoint. Both have to come and settle. It's not a big deal. Definitely not the way we have done it these days. The unhappy father complains that he cannot understand his child despite having lived together for so many years in the same house. You're living under the same roof. You have lived not for 1 year or 2 years, maybe 20 years. Right from childhood, the son has been with you, but yet currently you don't understand him. Instead of bonding together, they have drifted apart. They have gone apart. The gap has resulted in non-communication and non-understanding of each other. If you stop communicating, you will stop understanding each other. It is just not possible. Both of them have to communicate. You have to start. If he doesn't, come on, he's your father, so what? Sit and politely talk it out. You have to discuss it, because he ultimately is your best friend. He is your troubleshooter. So yes, talk it out. If both of them decide to take a lead and are willing to forget and forgive, the best way out, their relationship may improve. Yes, if the relationship is on such a bad note, please get on to forget and forgive. Take your chance. You take the lead. So what? You will not become small. Eventually, you are the son. So you need to do it. You are the child. Respecting each other's differences is the only way out to diminish the distance between parents and children. Very important. Extremely important. The ultimate. You have to learn to respect each other's differences. Yes, like I said, when the father grew up, the scenario was different. He grew up in a different era. Whereas you have grown up in the modern times. So obviously there are going to be differences. But you have to learn to respect each other's differences. And only then can you get a nice tight grip. Yes, you can get back to be a very, a strong and a healthy relationship. Okay, so the figures of speech involved in this poem, you have alliteration, where you have the repetition of the consonant, the first letter, antithesis, two contrasting or opposing ideas where they are put together. Enjambment, the practice of running lines of poetry from one to the next without using any kind of punctuation to indicate a stop. You shall know it once we read it further. Metaphor, a word or a phrase is used to represent something else. Synecdoche, a part is made to present the whole or vice versa. So one part is there, it is used to represent the whole. You will know it with the example. And a repetition is a repetition of word to secure emphasis. As in, the same word is repeated in the same line. Yeah, you have to be careful about that. So yes, let's move on to lines 1 to 6. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. Build as in to develop that relationship. Yet have I killed. Now you have it further, but before we move on, let's understand the explanation of these lines. The father unhappily, he's very unhappy. He reflects on his ability to understand his own son. You know, it is so strange. I get to know that the parents have to, either the parents get counseling or the child. Now, the bond is so diluted that you cannot, clarify things on your own. Can't the family just sit down? Can't the children and the parents just sit down and talk it out? Come on, you are a part of them. You are their children. Why do you need a counselor for the same? Why don't you just speak your hearts out? That's it. All you have to do is be transparent and understand and respect each other's differences. For that you need a counselor? Well, it's really surprising, but honestly, that should not be the case. Learn to communicate. Let's move further. So, they have been staying in the same house for years, but like I said, due to non-communication and a lack of understanding, both son and father are not able to understand each other. How will they? You don't know what you are feeling. How will he know when you can't express that to him? You don't know how he is feeling until he does not express it to you. So there has to be a midpoint. The father does not know much about his son's interests, likes or dislikes. Thus, he tries to build up the same kind of relationship as he used to have when his son was a little child. That scenario was different. That time the child knew nothing. Today he knows everything. So obviously he will want to protest at times. At times he may not like it. His choice, his taste, thinking process, everything has changed. So obviously he will not say a yes to everything you tell him. The father has now perhaps realized that there is a lack of understanding between his son and himself, and he wants to take measures so that their relationship improves. The father is trying really hard. Look, remember, however big you have grown, however big, today even if the child is married and has a child, yet for your dad, you're a child. Remember that. For your parents, you are that little one. So you may have grown, you may have your child, but for them, you are still that little baby. So never forget that. So that's the reason he's trying every bit that he gets his son back the way the bonding was when he was small. Talking about your figure of speech in these lines, you have alliteration, it's T, though, together. You have enjambment. Now look at this. One idea is flowing to the other without a punctuation mark. In the same house for years, I know nothing of him. So try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. Yet have I killed. So you see that line is going from one to the other. The idea is going, but there is no break. There is no punctuation telling you the same. Going further to the next set of lines. The seed I spent or sown it where, when I planted it where. The land is his and none of mine. We speak like strangers. There's no sign of understanding in the air. This child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. The lines are speaking out so boldly, so loudly. The father wonders whether it is he himself who is responsible for the failure of the relationship. Did I go wrong somewhere? That's what the father feels. Why has this relationship failed? Why is my grip loosening? Why is this bond diluting? The father feels that though the child is his son, but perhaps he lives in a world different from him, and that's true. Both father and son behave like strangers, living under the same roof. How can you behave like strangers? You are family. There is lack of understanding and a communication gap which makes them behave not like father and son, but more like strangers. Do you see this word communication coming in every explanation? I am telling you, communication is the worst thing it will bring the worst if you don't communicate. You have to communicate, you have to express you're happy, you're sad, your likes, your dislikes, whatever be the case. The father says that physically the child resembles him. We always say, oh, he looks like his father. Oh, he looks like his mother. They resemble physically, but he does not appreciate what his son likes. He's saying he looks like me, but I don't like what he likes. I don't like it. So again, the choices vary, the taste will vary. Okay, talking about the figures of speech in lines 7 to 12. So you know poetic devices, figures of speech, literary devices all come up to mean the same. So here you have alliteration, sir, seed, spent, sown. You have another alliteration again with sir, speak, strangers, sign. You have antithesis, the land is his and none of mine. So, you're giving two contradictory statements, the idea put together. Metaphor, the land is his and none of mine, as in the life we are talking about. Here it is land, it is sort of comparing, this is actually representing something else, the life, the place where he's living in, the life. And enjambment, again, the one idea going to the other without a punctuation mark. We speak like strangers. There's no sign of understanding in the air. So you see, this is still continuing in the next line and there is no punctuation in between. That is where it is an enjambment. And moving further, silence surround us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. So prodigal is spending money recklessly. Pointlessly you keep spending money without giving it a thought. That's prodigal. Shaping is like changing from sorrow, a new love. He even wants to do that. He doesn't mind. The silence surrounds their relationship because there is a complete lack of communication between them. Again we are at it. The father sees his son as a prodigal and wants him to return to the home he has always known. He wants to just tell him to come back into my world so that they can rebuild the relationship to have a new start. You can always have a new start. Why not? Jab jago tab savera. Always you can have a new start. He does not want the son to start life afresh without the father. He wants to be with him. He wants to leave a trail where his son can follow his footsteps. He just wants to be with him. He further says that he is willing to forgive his son for running away. He says, I'm okay to forgive him even if he has ran away. Here, the father's tone is somewhat condescending, as in it's very low. It's a very sad voice. He says, I'm okay, I'm ready to surrender, implying that the father is unable to let his son go despite restricting the son's independence and development. He's saying, I know I have, stopped him. I have actually been an obstacle when it comes to his independence and to his development. But despite that, I want to be with him. No matter what, ultimately, he is my son. How can I let him go? So yes, you have your figures of speech, alliterations. You can see the repetition of sound. It's sir here. Enjambment, the line going to the other. Silence around us. I would have him prodigal. Returning to his father's house, the home he knew. You also have another enjambment here. The idea flowing to the next line without a punctuation. You have the alliteration of H here, it's her. So his house, home. You have again here make and move. You have synecdoche, his world. Now his world as in the entire world is not. So basically his part of life. So here the whole thing is representing. It's a small part but the whole world has come. Alliteration again, it is shaping and sorrow, sir, and antithesis, shaping from sorrow a new love. Sorrow and love. They are two contradictory statements. They are two concepts. They are coming into one line. Yeah. So that is your antithesis. And father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks. Now here the father spoke. Till here. Now comes the son. He speaks. The son speaks. I cannot understand myself why anger grows from grief. Grief as in sadness. We each put out an empty hand. We both put up an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. We are literally desiring. We desire for longing to forgive. We want both of us to forgive each other for what we've done. Both fathers and their sons all over the world. Now this is a message to all the fathers and all the sons all over the world must learn to live together in spite of their misunderstandings and differences. You may think it's day, for them it's night. Be it whatever. Ultimately, you need to live under the same roof, and of course, you need to find place in each other's heart. At this point in the poem, the son speaks for the first time, and he admits that he too feels the sadness of the broken relationship, but he is angry due to his confusion. Now, there is a stage of adolescence when everyone reaches, anywhere between 10 and 19. So basically, that time you're not even a child, neither are you an adult. And you have gone through, or rather are going through that stage. You are confused. There are so many things where you don't know whether are you a child or are you an adult. So this period of adolescence is the worst. But yes, if you handle it carefully, if you stay in the umbrella, the protection of your parents, you can go through it very smoothly. You will never have issues. So yes, even he is confused, but he is angry due to his confusion. Both father and son want to forgive each other, but neither is ready to take the first step of asking for forgiveness from the other. Please don't wait for your opposite person to take. You take the lead. You just have no idea. In these days, it is so difficult to even think if tomorrow comes. You have no idea. There are, God forbid, there are unwanted and untimely deaths. You have no idea what happens to whom. So don't wait for that moment to come. You just start it. You give it a start. Just do it, because instead of repenting lifetime, I should have told him. God forbid something happened and you've lost your father forever. You will have that regret in your heart forever. So don't wait for that moment. Just go ahead. However, the situation can improve if they find a way of getting closer to each other. There are many ways. Find it. Dig for them. Just put away your egos. Just dissolve those egos and just go for it. You will find a way, definitely. So, the lines in 19 and 44, the figures of speech, antithesis, father and son, we both must live. Here we are talking of, it's not really opposites, but yeah, father and son, you have two ways of, you are putting that together, two concepts in one. So that is where it's antithesis. Metaphor on the same globe. Now the globe is representing something else. What is that? You are in the same house and the same land. Repetition, same, the same word being repeated in the same line, and the word is also same, coincidentally. Enjambment, he speaks, I cannot understand myself. So one concept continuing in another line, but without a punctuation. So you see, I cannot understand myself, why anger grows from grief. So yes, that brings us to the end of the poem. Tell me, what did you get out of it? Did you draw conclusions? God forbid, if you have any such issues in your life, I'm sure this poem has given you some message, some ways, some tips to sort out your lives. Well, I'm sure all of us are really happy, and let's conclude this poem with a very beautiful line. It is not flesh and blood, but the heart which makes us fathers and sons. It is the connection of the heart. Flesh and blood, everyone is common. But what connects you? Do you have the same feeling for everybody? No. Why? Because you possess a special place for your parents in your heart. This poem is based father and son, but again, parents are parents. It includes both father and mother. So you have a special place for them. You admire them, you respect them, and you love them unconditionally. Please do that. So this is what Johann Friedrich von Schiller tells us, that please, it's the connection of the heart. It's the connection of the soul. Why? Because you are a part of them. You are from them, and you are for them. Never forget, as children, your duties towards your parents. But remember that one word, again, I conclude this video with that one word, that one tip, which all of you need to follow, especially this period that you are going through. It's communication. Please, whatever you feel, whatever is there in your heart, speak it out very politely. Just talk it out to your parents. Your parents will understand. I am not kidding. Just trust me for this. I know it. Out of experience, I'm telling you, sit and talk it out. And you will never ever have issues. You will have a beautiful family, a loving family. The whole scenario of your house will change. There will be no differences. There will be just love in the air. And I'm looking forward to make sure that you people live that beautiful life. So yes, I conclude this video with keep watching and keep learning.